Imagine a vegetable that Roman legions carried with them as an essential food source to keep their bodies from collapsing on long, cold marches. A plant with a scent as strong as resin, a warm, peppery bite, and enough vitamin C to prevent a disease that once killed more sailors than war ever did. A plant with a flavor so rich and complex that Pliny the Elder described it as smelling like precious myrrh, and that was once an indispensable pot herb in the meals of medieval nobles and monks, helping them survive the brutal European winters. And yet, if you walk into a supermarket today, you won't find it. There isn't even a corner of a shelf left that hints it ever existed. This is not the story of a plant that failed because it was weak or tasted bad. On the contrary, it was forgotten precisely because it was too powerful, too wild, and too distinctive. A poor fit for a modern food system that demands uniformity, easy cultivation, and bland neutrality. We traded a vegetable that sustained soldiers and monks through long winters for a pale, fast-growing celery, planted in straight lines and neatly sealed in plastic bags. This is the story of Alexander's, a vegetable for grown-ups, for uncompromising flavor, and for the industrial choices that pushed it out of our collective memory. Welcome to Forgotten Flora Vault. If you're new here, this is where we uncover the plants the modern agricultural system doesn't want you to know about. Wild, resilient foods that free you from dependence on uniform hybrids in supermarkets. And to our returning viewers, you truly are the guardians of green history. Thank you for being here, for digging into the past with me to nourish the future. Like this video if you believe the best food isn't found on supermarket shelves, but along coastlines, beside fences, or in the corner of your permaculture garden. And don't forget to subscribe to Forgotten Flora Vault to keep exploring more forgotten flora waiting to come back. Plants you grow once, harvest forever, standing against the dominance of uniform crops. To understand why we lost Alexander's, you first need to understand its true nature. Smyrnium olusatrum is not just a forgotten soup vegetable, it is a true rebel in the world of vegetables. Most of the soft-stem plants we eat today, like modern celery or short-season herbs, are designed for one season, one crop, one quick harvest. They grow fast, get cut, and the next year you have to start again from seed. They create a constant labor loop, replanting, retending, and depending on mass-produced, uniform varieties. Alexander's is different. Scientifically, it is a biennial, but in real garden conditions, especially in permaculture, it often behaves like a short-lived perennial. You plant it once, and it establishes a lasting presence. Underground, it develops a thick, fleshy taproot, up to 60 centimeters long, along with a spreading network of fibrous side roots that anchor the plant and pull in nutrients. The root has dark skin, a shape similar to a white beet, and is ready to be roasted, boiled, or cooked into soup. This root system is an energy fortress because the plant is built to survive harsh winters and coastal conditions. It stores dense nutrients and reserves in the root as a natural antifreeze, allowing it to sprout as early as January to February, even after frost, and to provide fresh green leaves when almost everything else has frozen to death. In the first year, it stays low to the ground, quietly stockpiling energy in its roots and thick, glossy, strongly scented leaves. In the second year, it suddenly shoots upward with hollow, rigid stems carrying green-yellow flower umbels. All the stored energy is no longer used to prolong life, but to reproduce, to create black, spicy, oil-rich seeds that fall to the ground, sleep through winter, and begin the cycle again without human intervention. Alexander's is not a light vegetable. It was never meant to decorate a plate. The nutritional value of Alexander's lies in something very few modern vegetables still retain. It is a nutritional treasure hidden in the world of wild plants, a source of vitamin C so abundant that it was once used as a treatment for scurvy, vitamin C deficiency, among sailors and soldiers on long journeys. In the ancient and medieval worlds, vitamin C was not something you could buy year-round. Without it, the body collapsed quickly. Gums bled, wounds refused to heal, people fell to scurvy long before they starved. Alexander's, especially its leaves and young stems, was one of the most reliable sources of vitamin C in the cold season. When fruit did not exist, and fresh greens were so rare, they became a luxury. In 100 grams of leaves and young stems, Alexander's provides about 30 to 50 milligrams of vitamin C, 8 to 10 times higher than modern celery, only about 3 to 5 milligrams, higher than lettuce, around 9 milligrams, and comparable to, even slightly higher than spinach at about 28 milligrams. But Alexander's doesn't just provide vitamins, it provides real energy. Its root contains raw, unrefined carbohydrates that release slowly. They keep you full. Your body isn't pulled up and then crashed down like it is with refined sugar. This is the kind of energy suited for people working in the cold, in the wind, and in scarcity. Along with that comes enough plant protein to maintain muscle when meat intake is unreliable. The cooked root provides 60 to 80 kilocalories per 100 grams, close to parsnip at about 75 kilocalories and higher than carrot at 41 kilocalories, while celery contains only around 16 kilocalories. Moreover, the mature fruit of Alexander's is a storehouse of plant protein and carbohydrates, containing up to 15.44% protein and 51.1% carbohydrates on a dry weight basis, making it a rare source of sustained energy among wild vegetables. Fat content is low, but it is rich in petroselenic acid, a rare fatty acid up to 67.5% in the seed oil, well known in the Apiaceae family for its potential cardiovascular support and anti-inflammatory properties. In times when spices were scarce, Alexander's seeds served both as a pepper substitute and as a way to help the body digest heavy foods more effectively. Today, thanks to modern scientific research, we know that Alexander's, Smyrnium olisotrum, is not just a forgotten ancient vegetable. Its essential oil contains isofuranodiene, a compound from the furanocysgiterpene group, present in significant proportions of about 19.5 to 45.8%, and shown through both in vitro and in vivo studies to induce apoptosis, programmed cell death, in cancer cell lines such as colon, breast, and prostate cancer, with a low IC50 of only about 10 to 15 micrograms per milliliter. This shows that it is not a normal vegetable, but a source of powerful bioactive compounds. In addition, Alexander's is rich in essential minerals, about 593 milligrams potassium per 100 grams, 3.7 milligrams iron, 180 milligrams calcium, along with a high fiber content, around 5.17 grams per 100 grams, and many other bioactive compounds helping support immunity, improve digestion, and protect the body against oxidative stress. In ancient Roman times, Alexander's, Smyrnium olisotrum, was not a peasant vegetable, but a vegetable of the empire, tied to discipline, medicine, and survival. The Romans understood it well and deliberately carried this plant with their legions on long marches to Britannia and northern Europe after the invasion of 43 CE, treating it as an essential pot herb, easy to transport, sprouting early from late winter, February to March, and providing nutrition when other sources were scarce. The earliest archaeological evidence in Britain is Alexander's seeds found at the Roman site of Caerwent. The plant had already been widely used around the Mediterranean since ancient Greek times, once called Macedonian parsley or parsley of Alexandria, and was carefully recorded by classical scholars. Pliny the Elder called it Smyrnium because its scent was close to myrrh, an aromatic resin used in medicine and ritual, describing it as a black vegetable due to its glossy black seeds. He noted its effects, stimulating digestion, keeping the body warm in cold weather, and fighting fatigue and exhaustion on long journeys. Theophrastus, the Greek botanist, considered it an aromatic herb, while Dioscorides, the Greco-Roman physician, clearly distinguished Alexander's from similar plants like Hipposolinum, emphasizing its dark green leaves and white root. The value of Alexander's lies in the fact that the entire plant is usable. Leaves, eaten fresh in salads or cooked in soups and vegetable porridges, harvested young to avoid bitterness. Stems, cooked like asparagus or angelica, boiled or sauteed with sauces, such as Roman grape sauce, best when young. Root, eaten raw or cooked like parsnip, white carrot, roasted or added to casseroles, best in winter when the root is juicy. Seeds, glossy black, ground as a pepper substitute, spicy and pungent. also used to treat scurvy and respiratory ailments. Flowers and buds, used to garnish salads, pickled in vinegar, or fried until crisp. Its flavor sits between parsley and pepper, with a warm, lingering heat and a strong, non-neutral aroma. For that reason, it is truly an adult flavor, a vegetable that adults find deeply satisfying, but that children or people accustomed to bland tastes may find uncomfortable. Alexander's does not ask to be liked. It demands maturity from the eater, a familiarity with complexity and the strength of ancient flavors. And that is why, in Roman times, Alexander's was not just food. It was a symbol of discipline, endurance, and readiness to face hardship, embodying the spirit of an empire that conquered the world. After the collapse of the Roman Empire, Alexander's did not disappear. On the contrary, it continued to survive, and even became a familiar part of everyday life in medieval Europe, especially in England, Ireland, and the northern regions. It appeared mainly in monastery gardens. Monks grew Alexanders near castles, monasteries, and villages because the plant sprouted early, often from February to March, tolerated cold well, and provided fresh green vegetables year-round, especially valuable during harsh winters. Peasant and monastic cuisine. Alexander's was widely used in pottage, the traditional vegetable porridge of the poor and monks, often combined with watercress, nettles, oatmeal, butter, and salt. It also appeared in salads, sauces, and Lenten dishes. A typical 17th century recipe was Alexander pottage. By the 16th to 17th centuries, it was still recommended in agricultural manuals, such as Thomas Tusser's 100 Points of Good Husbandry, 1557, showing that Alexander's remained a subsistence vegetable for common and religious communities. People called it old celery, horse celery, or wild celery, and regarded it as a reliable, nutritious vegetable that helped people survive hunger and cold. But problems began to surface. Alexander's gradually revealed fatal weaknesses as European society moved into a new era. First, it has a strong smell, a bold flavor sitting between parsley plus celery plus pepper, rich and intense. Not easy to please the masses. As European tastes shifted from medieval to modern, lighter, sweeter, less bitter foods were preferred. Alexander suited ancient cuisine, pottage, hearty soups, but not modern mass taste, especially children and those accustomed to mild flavors. Many sources even called it an inferior version of celery, despite its higher nutrition. Second, it grows more slowly than newer vegetable varieties, needing 1 to 2 years for a full harvest. The stems become fibrous if left to age, lacking tenderness and crispness. Sizes are uneven, hard to standardize for commerce or large-scale distribution. Meanwhile, modern celery, Apium graveolens, is easy to grow in bulk, develops quickly, has juicy stems, uniform size, and brings better profit. Celery began to be selectively bred to improve flavor, while Alexander's received little breeding. Celery was more convenient, easier to standardize, and better suited to the rise of commercial agriculture. Third, medicine changed. Vitamin C was no longer scarce. Alexander's had once been valued because it was rich in vitamin C, prevented scurvy, and saved lives through winter. But when oranges and lemons became common and globalized food systems spread, Alexander's survival advantage was no longer unique. By the 19th century, as noted by Mrs. Beeton, 1861, it was still used like celery, but its cultivation was almost entirely abandoned, leaving Alexander's to live on in another life, the life of a wild coastal vegetable, carrying memories from Rome through medieval monasteries, then quietly stepping aside for convenience. But ironically, the very traits that made Alexander's fail in industrial agriculture are what turn it into a gift for the small backyard garden. If you're tired of the yearly loop, digging, sowing, thinning, harvesting, then starting all over again, Alexander's is your way out. This is a plant for truly lazy gardeners. Even though science calls it a biennial, in real permaculture practice it behaves like a short-lived perennial. You plant it, or let it self-seed, once, then simply manage its life cycle. No need to buy new seeds every year. No need to reset the garden from scratch. It is a true infinite food hack. You don't exhaust the supply, you are managing a living population. Harvesting does not mean killing everything. Pick young leaves in winter for abundant vitamin C. Cut young stems in spring like ancient celery. Dig up plump roots in winter for warming energy. Grind the glossy black seeds into a spicy pepper substitute. Then let what remains regenerate on its own. The ecosystem is not destroyed. It simply continues. In the kitchen, its bold adult flavor can intimidate newcomers. A strong myrrh-like aroma, a warm peppery finish, a fresh parsley base. But once you adjust, it's a revelation. It isn't bland like modern celery. It has depth, memory, the vitality of history. It tastes like an ancient story retold through each bite. For the permaculture designer, Alexander's is a quiet weapon. It tolerates partial shade, growing well under fruit trees, along forest edges, along fences, at woodland margins, places where most modern vegetables demand full sun and open space. It fills wasted gaps, creates a calorie-rich ground layer, suppresses weeds, pulls nutrients from deep in the soil, and attracts pollinators, all without you tearing apart the surrounding nature. The story of Alexander's reminds us that progress in agriculture often comes with a loss of quality. We sacrificed a wild, bold, multi-layered, nutrient-dense vegetable in exchange for the convenience of a uniform celery that is easy to package and easy to ship. We let machines and industrial standards define our taste, shrinking the vast biodiversity of the past down to a handful of crops that fit neatly into shipping containers. But we can choose differently. Growing Alexander's today is an act of botanical rebellion. It is a rejection of supermarket aesthetics, a refusal of bland uniformity, and a reclaiming of real flavor. It is a declaration that you are willing to get your hands dirty to taste what Roman legions once carried as a survival treasure. Bring Alexander's back to the table. Plant a heritage that returns year after year, not in a single plant, but in a self-sustaining ecosystem. When you plant Alexander's, you are not just planting a vegetable. You are replanting a way of thinking that was once forgotten. Slow, resilient, diverse, and needing permission from no one. If you are ready to fill your garden with plants that history forgot, but the land still remembers, subscribe to the Forgotten Flora Vault channel now. We still have many forgotten harvests waiting to be rediscovered. And the best way to resist the system is to grow your own food. See you in the garden.